G'day guys, welcome back to my channel. My name is Wildcard. Thank you for watching the Wildcard Rugby Show. Like, comment and subscribe. And yes, you are here today because it's time to check out the Rugby World Rankings. Yeah, some really interesting results coming out from the weekend. In the first week of July Test Series, there was quite a few big shifts in the bottom of the top 10. Wales actually dropped out of the top 10. They were actually ranked number 1 in 2019 after winning the Grand Slam heading into the Rugby World Cup. And in, just a bit over 4 years, actually I guess 5 years, they are completely out of the top 10. So yeah, so a lot of Welsh fans will not be happy about that. The good news is Fiji has moved up to 10th after defeating Portugal, and Italy dropped a spot after losing in a very big upset to Samoa, where Samoa came back late in the second half to win the game. And Wallabies obviously moved up one spot after defeating the Welsh. So yeah, some interesting changes from bottom ladders, and the top ranks are still staying firm between the big boy nations. No upsets whatsoever in those games. So let's have a look at all the results from the weekend. So yeah, Georgia 12 points to 21 to Fiji. I thought this was an interesting game. I couldn't see the whole match. I only saw some highlights. The Fijians was kind of like head on head against Georgians and then pulled away later in the match. And Georgia was really committing to kicking those goals. I really thought that they were like a little bit behind. Instead of just going for the tries, they somehow felt like they could just catch up with penalties, which was a little bit disappointing. And it was good for Fiji to be able to not concede any tries. I guess really good defense, forcing Georgia into that kicking mentality. USA lost to Romania 20 points to 22. New Zealand 16 points to 15 over England. Japan, whatever, don't care. Australia 25 points to 16. And South Africa 27 points to 20 over Ireland. Argentina lost to France at home 13 points to 28. This was Argentinian side really kind of fell apart a bit in the second half, and really it looked like the organization in attack is lacking a little bit without Michael Cheika. So yeah, really disappointing. This was also like a French B side as well. Looked quite comfortable in terms of beating the Argentinians, especially when that big forwards came off the bench in the second half. Really kind of like dominated the Argentinians. Chile 22 points to 17 over Hong Kong. And finally, Canada got flogged 12 points to 73 to Scotland. Yeah, so interesting results on the weekend. Obviously, the big match on the weekend was Ireland versus the Springboks. So Springboks has already just announced their team going into next week's match, and it's completely unchanged. 23 players from their outings last week. The Irish came out of the game with a couple of injuries actually, whereas the Springboks literally came out unscathed. And I guess it's a way that Rassie Erasmus wants to build consistency. It shows how important he wants to win this series. I honestly thought that he was going to trial a few different players between the two tests, giving some younger players an opportunity to grow their craft. But hey, I think Rassie probably saw a lot of issues in the Springboks performance. Obviously, the defense was a little bit on and off at times, especially in that second half. And there was a little bit of kicking issue from Handré Pollard. And maybe the strategy has been a bit of a shift from just the high box kicking strategy as well. So maybe Rassie Erasmus is thinking about those fronts and trying to polish that up a little bit with his current core of players preparing for the Rugby Championship. And yeah, very surprising to me that he has not opted to build for more depths. So let's have a look at who's in, who's out for the second match. It's same as last week. Coming in number 1, Ox Nché. Number 2, Bungi Mbonambi. Number 3, Franz Malherbe. I thought the scrummaging was really impressive from Andrew Porter. He was able to get away with a bit of a shenanigans trying to pull the scrum down, but yeah, overall, he was very dominant over Franz Malherbe. Number 4, Evan Nesbitt. Number 5, Franco Mostert. Number 6, Siya Kolisi. Number 7, Peter Dutoy. And number 8, Kwagga Smith, who was not able to catch the high ball on the weekend. 2 drop balls early in the match. It's actually quite interesting to think about it. The way that the number 8 it's operated, the number 8 expected to operate for the Springboks, it's almost like an addition of back that has to catch the high ball and contest the high ball. Kwagga Smith normally plays a 7, former Sevens player. I was really interesting that he struggled a little bit under the high ball. So yeah, we'll have to see a big improvement for him this weekend. Coming in number 9, Faf de Klerk. Number 10, 100 Pollard. Dropped down to 60% goal kicking again. This is something that had been an issue with him throughout the years leading to the Rugby World Cup, which is probably one of the reasons why Rassie Erasmus really wanted to transition into maybe man in the box at one point, because of the fact that 100 Pollard was kicking 50% of his goals in test matches in those November test series, in this July series, a couple of years ago before the World Cup. But luckily, he was 100% at the Rugby World Cup where it counted the most. But yeah, I was very surprised to see that he was very uncharacteristic, I guess, back down to his 60% kicking percentage when the World Cup cycle is, World Cup is out of play. Curdy Alinsa coming number 11, Damien de Allende number 12, Jesse Crew number 13, Cheslin Kobe again number 14, and Billy LaRue number 15. I was actually expecting a little bit more kicking game from Billy LaRue on the weekend. We really didn't see much of that. He really controlled the kicking well for the Bulls, and he really didn't do much in terms of that aspect of the game. So this indicates to me that there's a clear shift from Rassie Erasmus of the way that he wants to play. At least the way he wants to play against Ireland is a bit more of a shifting away from the box kicks and the kicking game, a bit more of attacking. The ball handling was a bit of an issue. Yes, you are putting pressure on, carrying the ball hard over the advantage line, but it was way too many handling errors, way too many turnovers at the breakdowns for the Springboks to really walk out of that one saying that it was a successful transition into a different game style. So I think Rassie will really have to look into that over the week and decide on how he wants to go about it next weekend. In the replacements, Malcolm Marx, exactly the same. I saw Malcolm Marx, Gerhard Steenekamp, Vincent Koch, Saman Morat, Achia Sneymond, Marco van Staden, 21, Grant Williams, coming number 22 and 23, Sacha Fangberg and Gomek Zulu. And it was interesting to say the least. I thought the big one was that when the big move was when Rassie Erasmus brought on all 6 of his forwards at the same time at the beginning of the second half, about 5 minutes or something into the second half, and immediately losing a scrum penalty because of the lack of consistency. So maybe that's something he has to think about. Obviously, the discussion between the referee and the 4-pack beforehand, he's not going to repeat it again just because of the fact that he changed your entire 4-pack. So a lot of forwards went in and then immediately kind of fell to a penalty because of previous infringements that they were not known for. And it was interesting to maybe they have to think about that, not let a few players to stay on the field and give that more consistency in that regards. But it was definitely immediately shown that there was a bit of a disconnect between the referee and the new set of forwards, leading into a penalty against the Springboks in scrum time immediately. So that wasn't quite the ideal situation, and also felt like the defense was maybe a little bit off late in the second half when the Springboks pulled ahead. And so we'll have to see that much better this game. The consistency needs to maintain for all 80 minutes, especially for the bench that's coming off as the bomb squad. Now, Ireland losing the game on the weekend was not without controversies. There were a number of TMO calls that went against Ireland. There was a James Lowe try that was scrapped because the referee deemed that the rocks leading into it. One of the players, I think was one of the Irish players, was scooped the ball back with his foot while he was on the ground. The TMO deemed that illegal. Pretty hard, tough call there. Another one is when James Lowe tried to rescue the ball as it was going out of bounds for a touch finder from 100 Pollard, and millimeters to say, where he was in touch of the ball or not when his foot touched the ground. So another very difficult call there, which led to a Cheslin Kobe try. And then there was a try that could have maybe have given if the on-field decision had been a try. I think it was Kalen Doris went over the try line and it looked like he may have scraped the ball on the tip of the grass. So if the referee's on-field decision was that he scored, that would have been a try. But the fact that the on-field decision was no try, the TMO really had to, couldn't find any reason to say that the ball actually touched the ground. It was just really that close. And so there was very tough decisions against Ireland. And it's something that the Irish has to be, I guess, more wary of and polish up the performance for the second test match, to say the least. So, yeah, Andy Farrell was a little bit frustrated after the game. And there were a couple of injuries out of this game as well for the Irish side. So, obviously, the big one is Casey, Achias Neyman tackling Craig Casey. So, yeah, he was committed to tackle, and he drove Casey to the ground, leading to Casey smacking the back of his head on the ground and getting knocked out. So that's pretty scary, because people can get serious brain damage from getting hit on the back of the head. And obviously it is a legal tackle, but the argument was to be said that whether or not he should have, follow through by driving Casey to the ground after Casey has already passed the ball away. So maybe a bit of a careless from Achias Neyman. I mean, obviously it's rugby. It's a men's sport. I'm sure Achias Neyman just wanted to rough him up a little bit, didn't want to actually injure him. But yeah, it's a little bit unfortunate for that. So Casey is out due to that injury, and also the other injury is to Dan Sheehan, leading to the Irish had to call up 2 players in both the players' replacement. I think the biggest issue with Ireland right now is the fact that Casey is out, which means Conor Murray have to start this weekend with another someone else on the bench. So that's going to be a bit of a shift in tempo, and I think that Conor Murray is just not that fast anymore on the breakdowns, and that's going to really hurt into the Irish style of attack a little bit. And with that being said, there was also criticism by none other than Matt Williams. He's not Australian, by the way. He's Irish. He's 100% Irish. And he is, again, came out and criticized the fact that the way that Rassie Erasmus brought on 6 forwards at the same time was not how the game was played in the 80s, 90s, and 2000s. I mean, if you just want to play the what rugby used to be played, tries didn't actually score any points. So do you want to go back to that? Just because it was played at once upon a time doesn't mean it should be played forever. The game evolved, the game changes, and that's just the way it is. It's more strict. Adds additional level of mind games, additional level of complexity, and more involvement by more players. It is a 23-player sport nowadays in the professional level. It's not a 15-player game anymore. It is just what it is. It has to change. The game evolves. Everything is evolving. And Matt Williams stuck in the 90s and 2000s, and boy, maybe he's just stupid argument, right? It's like saying, he could have said, oh, back in the days when rugby didn't score points when you scored tries. Yeah, but it's just so stupid, is this guy. Anyway, moving on. So let's move on to the second game. That was the second big match of the weekend. That is the All Blacks versus England. England was really came into this game with a really good strategy, rush defense. Steve Borthwick, seriously done his homework. He looked at exactly what he needed to do to win the scrummaging with a bit of a shenanigans. I thought was pulling the scrum back. He knew exactly how he wanted to play the kicking game. How he didn't want to play the kicking game. In fact, he wanted to counter attack a lot more than we were expecting. Little grabber kicks down the short side. That's also a bit of a change from the typical England style, and also the most importantly, the rush defense we already mentioned, really shutting down the options for the All Blacks. And the All Blacks was just going backwards constantly throughout the whole game. Nobody was straightening up to punch through over the advantage line, giving any of the forward momentum. I mean, All Blacks really have to just look back into the playbooks out of the Blues to just get that forward momentum first, earn the right to go wide, and then it should be a better result. But yeah, the All Blacks look really, really undercooked, and it was seriously the bench coming off the field that rescued the team out of a potential loss. And I thought Beauden Barrett coming onto the field really opened up the kicking game a lot more, a bit more diversity out of that kicking game, and really got the All Blacks playing finally in the right side of the field, getting those turnovers, penalties, and eventually winning the game. So I think there should be a lot of changes coming off the next game for the All Blacks, especially between the 10 and the 9 and 10 position. I really felt that both TJ Perenara and Phelan Christie was not clicking with David McKenzie. Dan McKenzie obviously had a really, really terrible game, so I would not be surprised if Beauden Barrett starts next week. But yeah, big game for the All Blacks. But the biggest, controversy out of this match was the fact that the D-Mac missed one of his penalties because of the shot clock ran out. There was no shot clock in Super Rugby, so the All Blacks, in typical All Blacks fashion, I mean not All Blacks, Super Rugby, both Australia and New Zealand, in typical backwards fashion, have not implemented the game, the clock, shot clock in any of the matches, despite World Rugby has introduced it officially. So yeah, it had cost Damian McKenzie a goal kick and could have cost the All Blacks the entire match. And yeah, they have finally decided to put that up for next week between the All Blacks and the England game at Eden Park. But more importantly, I thought this was really interesting after the match that somebody actually paused the clock for Damian McKenzie just before he ran out. So this is my own video, so just quickly watch this. So the clock was paused at 19 seconds, which is literally 1 second before he was supposed to run out. So somebody at the stadium thought, Sky Sport thought this would have made a difference. The referee is keeping track of time personally, so it didn't really matter. But yeah, somebody definitely tried to do something there to confuse the issue a little bit. But yeah, let me know your thoughts. So for the All Blacks as well, TG Perenara was injured. It looked like he hyperextended his leg. Boy, it looked pretty bad. He was left on the field for like 5 minutes as well after he clearly hyperextended his leg. And yeah, he's not going to be able to play on this weekend. So we'll have to see a little bit of shuffling up in the number 9 jersey. So I think Finlay Christie will probably start and Ratma will go into the reserve. And they've also called up Noah Hotham from the Crusaders as the 3rd replacement halfback. So yeah, interesting how that's going to work out. I really think that maybe Finlay Christie, I really think that Finlay Christie had a pretty poor performance on the weekend, but I think that Finlay Christie, stylistically will match a little bit better with someone like Damian McKenzie or Beauden Barrett, who has a lot of flair. So I really felt that TG Perenara was clashing a little bit with too much going on between him and Damian McKenzie. And England as well, they had an injury early on in the match with Joe Marler. He hurt his leg, and England will be calling up Emmanuel Leongun, who played for the Saints and won the English Premiership. But England already has Bevan Rudd in camp, so Bevan Rudd will be playing alongside of the Sharks guy. Who was his name? Finn Baxter. So the two guys will be, is it Sharks or Sale? Is it Sharks, right? Sales Sharks, or is it? Anyway, so that'll be the two starting loose props for England this weekend without Joe Marler. So Baxter will probably be starting, and then Bevan Rudd will be coming off the bench. Australia now has already made a change before the team announcement. Liam Wright was named the captain last week, but the captaincy was shifted. It's going to be shifted to James Slippert, according to reports from the camp for this weekend. So this speculation is that Liam Wright might not be playing at all this weekend. So yeah, interesting how Joe Schmidt is going to shuffle up the squad against Wales a little bit. But yeah, that's a big call for Joe Schmidt. I thought the Wallabies played really well on the weekend. The team actually looked like they had a structure, looked like they had a game plan, bit of a kicking game, bit of a counter attacking, and nothing too fancy. But everybody seems to know the game plan they're working with. The one big issue for the Wallabies was the rolling more defense. The Welsh was able to get a penalty try from rolling more with the player in the bin. Yeah, that is really not ideal for any team, especially in the world, tier 1 nation. So the Wallabies will have to really hammer down on that going into next weekend. So Wales as well, falling out of the top 10. There was a lot of disappointment out of the camp, and the big issue for the Welsh is that there are 2 big injuries potentially going into next weekend. So Aaron Wainwright and Liam Williams might not be available, so both players are still being tested. There were a few more players that's concerned, but they all have returned to the camp. So yeah, Wainwright is probably the best loose forward in the Welsh side, and Liam Williams probably the most experienced players in the Welsh team right now, in fact. So definitely need the both to be able to have any chance of beating the Wallabies in Melbourne next week. So the French have played Argentina, we already spoke about. It's the aftermath of these matches that has really got people concerning. So there was 2 French players being charged with sexual assault post-match. So there was a report of these 2 guys, Hugo Oraduro and Oscar Jegu. There was a report that they committed the offense, and there was an investigation. Forensic team investigated immediately, and it was said that both players are very guilty potentially. So yeah, that's just really silly stuff and really unacceptable as well. Speaking of more unacceptable stuff, Melvin Jaminet has been dropped out of the French squad after a racist rant almost on Instagram. So he basically said that he was gonna hit some Arabs on Instagrams, but it's not sure if he did this in Argentina or if he did this in France, but the video has just been surfaced. So yeah, he's been completely dropped out of the team. So yeah, that's just stupid. Like, why would you get drunk and have a racist rant on Instagram is beyond my comprehensions. Anyway, moving on. The alignment from Rugby Australia has been a thing that's been talked about for about a year now. So Rugby Australia has been trying to get all the Super Rugby clubs to give management to Rugby Australia to manage. So centralized management for all the clubs. So Waratahs has signed up already because they were going under, essentially. And the Brumbies has also handed over the keys this week, aligning with Rugby Australia, who will be taking over the operations for the Brumbies. So we'll have to see how this is going to go for both teams, and hopefully it'll just be like better management for the players, better alignment on Wallabies, and yeah, we'll have to see. But I really don't know how Rugby Australia, who's failing to manage everything else, can manage more in addition to their failing management in the Wallabies and Melbourne Rebels, right? So it's just, yeah, I don't know how this is a good idea, but hey, it's happening. It will continue, and we'll see how this goes. So next up, Highlanders has revealed that their legendary coach Jamie Joseph has returned to head coaching the Highlanders. Jamie Joseph took the Highlanders to winning the Super Rugby in 2015, and yeah, he's an absolute legend. I remember in 2015 it was almost like a miracle that Highlanders won. I mean, a lot of you guys are going to tell me, oh, it wasn't really a miracle. A lot of guys were in the All Blacks. But to me, I had never would have guessed that Highlanders was going to win the Super Rugby. And yeah, it was quite an impressive achievement. And this was, what, 2000? When did they win? 2015? And no, they won in 2014, I think it was. But anyway, so it was just his return to the team, and it'd be interesting to see how that's gonna pan out for the Highlanders, and if he's gonna be able to turn the team around. More coaching changes now. Dan McKellar has joined the Waratahs. Of course, he's going to. We're not gonna be able to get coaches like Jamie Joseph, but we're gonna get Dan McKellar, who failed in England, and after failing the Brumbies, and yeah. Anyway, moving on. Johnny Gray has signed with Top 14 to Bordeaux from Exeter Chiefs. Salisi Riassi has decided to leave the Hurricanes, and he has joined Vannes in France. I'm pretty sure this club has just moved up to the Top 14, so they were just like lower ranks, or just went up from the relegation match. So yeah, it'd be good to see that they're immediately getting some big names to go over to try to help him out. Pretty sure he is. Is a Mako Vinapola going there as well? So yeah, let me know if I'm wrong about that. And finally, Josh Ioane is joining Connacht in Ireland next year, leaving the Chiefs. So yeah, a lot of more All Blacks, prospects leaving overseas. Not a good sign, and it is what it is. Let me know your thoughts. So yeah, thanks for watching this video. Like, comment, and subscribe, guys. Appreciate your time. And let me know your predictions. I will see you guys in the previews when the full team lists are announced on Friday. And for meantime, enjoy yourselves and have a good one. Cheers.